community that empower entrepreneurs all over the world. And today I have my special guest. She is executive sales leader, real estate investor, and of course, people builder. No other than Miss Christine Valdes.
Hello.
Welcome, Miss Christine, once again on Entrepreneurship 101. Can you please introduce more about yourself that I know?
Yes, I'm Christine Valdes. Second time on the show. Thank you, Daniel, for having me on twice. I
Yes, thank
appreciate
you.
it. I am an executive sales leader for a large sales organization. I've been in leadership now about 22 years. So I've led different size teams with different goals. Also, I do real estate investing. So we've done flips, buy and holds, multifamily. We're also doing investing in private equity as well as in small companies now. So we've evolved. And I'm here in Dallas, Texas. Excited to be here again.
Yes, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Miss Christine. Thank you. And today, let's talk about something good. Being entrepreneur with nearly 30 years of experience building the leading high-performing teams across complex result-driven organizations. And people, I'm so excited that Miss Christine will be my co-host to a new podcast that I'm
Woo!
brewing. Yay!
Yeah.
Leadership 101. Let's big a big hand and welcome to Universal Podcast, Miss Christine.
Yay.
Thank you for saying yes. Additional one of my co-hosts that brings you one of the best episodes that we will do on Leadership 101, soon to be available to other podcast, but we are live every Saturday with my other partner, Mr. Michael T. Brown. And sooner or later, for sure, Miss Christine will just brewing when, where, when. will.
Exactly.
So, Miss Christine, tell us 30 years ago, when you started your first venture, the internet was barely commercial. Mobile phone were breaks, and AI means science fiction. Looking back, what is the single biggest way the job of entrepreneur has changed? Not just the tools, but fundamental nature of what takes to build something.
Well, back then I wasn't an entrepreneur. I was a W 2, but I still approached my work, I would say the same way. Um, but it was different, right? Now you have computers and you have cell phones. Back then I had a pager. I had,
I remember, yes.
I had remember the
Pager.
pagers? Yeah, which I've just aged myself. um, but I had a pager. I had this car. I remember I got a rental and there was a car phone in the car. And I was so excited because there was this phone in the car that was connected to the car.
Hmm.
Um, but the technology, I don't think, changed my approach to my work. When I first started working, I was a chemist, first of all, and then I moved over to sales. And when you're learning, like, in chemistry, you're in the lab, you follow it's almost like a recipe of what you need to do, and you add and subtract, and you have the chemical compounds and everything happens. But in sales, it's completely different, right? And you think at first it's all about just talking to people, which that's part of it, but there is a formula to selling. The formula is you have to reach out to as many people as possible. It's a numbers game. The more people you talk to, not only do you have more opportunities with the more people you talk to, but you also get to practice your craft every time you talk to somebody. And so my first job in sales, I had to call on the phone, which was not my most favorite thing to do. And I would spend more time cleaning my desk and getting my desk organized before I can call, because I was like, oh my gosh, I do not want to make another call. But I had to make 125 calls a day. And people would hang up on me. People wouldn't want to talk to me. And then finally, when I would have an opportunity to talk to somebody, I would freeze. and I wouldn't know what to say, right?
Mhm, mhm.
So back then it was a numbers game. It was about getting the reps in. Like for anybody in your audience that's played sports, you know, like if you're playing baseball, you got to get those swings in, you got to get those catches in. If you're playing soccer, how many kicks on goal, right? How many opportunities are you making for yourself? And in sales, it was the same thing. And what's interesting is even though we have this technology, we have these phones, we have the computers, when it comes to sales, it's still about those reps. It's still about getting in front of as many people as possible because you're connecting with them. You're trying to identify what are their needs? How can I bring value to them? And if you're not making those attempts to meet with people, you lower your opportunity. So, for example, if in a week you see 10 people a day, or you try to attempt to see 10 people a day, but you only see two, you make 10 attempts, you see two, you've only made 10 attempts a week if you work 5 days a week. And in a month, that's only 40. And if your close ratio is 10%, you can close possibly four people, right? But if you make double the attempts, your close ratio could be higher, could be double. So again, it's a numbers game. The more you do, the more your close ratio gets better and better. So that hasn't changed at all. When with technology changing, the sales part hasn't changed at all. It's just your ability to reach out to people is different. You can do email, you can do SMS text messaging, you can do phone calls, you can do, you can reach them via social media now, right? Via TikTok. TikTok's different from Facebook, from Instagram, from Twitter, from Threads, from you name it. There's different ways of reaching people. It's a little bit different, but you have to still use those touches, that guerrilla marketing, in order to get to your customer. So this is the difference.
Definitely
Mhm.
still authenticity.
Mhm.
People authentic and converse with your client. So speaking of conversely with Christine, what was stayed obsolete constant? What is the truth about building teams, serving customers, or managing cash that you learned in your first year that remains just true today?
Well, when I first led teams, it was hard because I was a salesperson, and then I moved into a management job, and that's a different skill set. You know, being a salesperson and being on your own and selling to customers is very different from motivating people, from getting people to understand what their job is, to getting them to learn. So when you move into a management role and you start leading people, you have to learn a new skill set. And I think people don't realize that. They think, oh, you were good in sales, you're going to be a good sales leader. But that's not necessarily the case, because the skill sets you have to have in communicating with people that you lead and getting them to believe in themselves, and providing value to your direct report is very different than to providing value to the customer. So the it's that skill set. It's the way you have the conversations. It's the way you try to understand what really drives someone. And some people are driven by money. Some people are driven by accolades. Some people need that pride, those accolades all the time. Some people need that empathy and need to be listened to. I've had employees where they need to call me every day and talk for an hour and a half. Can't give an hour and a half every day, but there are employees like that just need to talk things through. So you have to, as a leader, when I first became a leader, I had to figure that out. And that was hard. I'm telling you right now, it was hard because you're coming into a team you've never led before. And my first team, half of my team were double my age.
Mhm.
So it was, now, not only are they looking at me as the foreign person on their team that doesn't know what they do, and that I don't have enough experience, as much experience as them, because they had 30 years, I had 4 as a salesperson. So very different. Not only did I not have that credibility, I was also young.
Mhm.
Um, and I was still immature and insecure about who I was, not only as a leader, but as a person who, what type of value am I bringing this person? So there's all those nuances that you have to work through when you first become a leader.
Very well said, Miss Christine. You lived through multiple economic cycles, booms, busts, to 2008, the pandemic. How did each one change you as a leader. Is there a version to you that existed before a particular crisis that would not recognize the person who emerged on the other side?
Yeah, I'm very different than what I was when I first became a leader. I was not comfortable in my own skin as a leader. Um,
Mm,
I was trying to be what everybody told me a leader was, or what I read in books, and I wasn't secure in who I was. So when I think the first economic downturn, again, I'm going to age myself, was that 2008, right?
okay,
And I
yes.
think I remember we purchased our home in California, I don't know, 750,000, and I remember our house was now worth 400,000 in a year. So we lost all of this equity. So what we owed on our mortgage was much higher than what our house is worth. And
Hmm.
so in my mind, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm leading this team, but I'm going through this financial, I wouldn't say hardship, but I was trying to make a decision for the betterment of my family. And my husband and I were trying to take a look at, do we really want to lose this beautiful house that we have? At the same time, my employees are going through the same thing. Right. And so making those types of difficult decisions and not being guilty helped me to not only understand more of the economics of the real estate market, but it also helped me to be to I don't know, it was interesting because having to lead through all of that change and that turmoil in 2007, 8, 9, and 10, because at the same time, I was in pharmaceuticals still, they were doing lots of layoffs. So we were going every 9 months, we were laying people off. So having to go through and sit down with people and go, oh my gosh, sorry, I know the company told you we're going to be okay, but I'm laying you off. That was hard to do when you're like building a team and you're trying to build this trust, and then all of a sudden you're basically letting people go every 9 months. So I think I had to displace people 4 times in 3 years. And that just builds this whole it just builds a different way of looking at your team, a different way of leading them, but also it builds that skill of having those types of conversations as well. I think at that point, I was really close to my team, but I had to understand it from the business perspective. And at the time, I didn't fully understand it from the business side, from the large corporation side and how they look at things. I was just looking at it from my team and how my team was feeling and what it was doing to their families, and they were in financial hardship. I wasn't thinking about the greater impact to the entire company. And so after that experience, not only did I learn about, the finances and real estate and all that, not only did I learn how to manage, how I felt about the team, but I also learned how to manage looking at where the company as a whole is coming from, and taking that perspective and articulating that to my team, which I didn't know how to do before. So, yeah, difficult.
Difficult indeed, but you did it. You did it, Miss Christine. If you go back to yourself at 25, standing in the starting line and whisper one piece of wisdom in your ear, not advice, just truth about what was coming and what will be.
Oh gosh. It's a good question because at 25, I had just had my child. So
Mm-hmm.
I had a 2-month old. And at the time when I was 25, I didn't have any money at all. I was living in my parents' house. I had no money.
Mm-hmm.
And I was going through a split with my daughter's father at the time. So it was, let's say, a lot of people who go through that situation and that have come out of it realize that it's not the end of the world. But at the
Yes.
time, I felt like, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? And if I were to give myself advice to myself 25 when I was 25, I would tell her, the 25-year-old Christine, that you have everything within you to be successful. Do not let your circumstances today and how you feel today dictate how your life is going to be 5, 10, 25 years from now, because it's not going to be what it is right now. So,
Empowering. Miss
Mhm.
Christine, you need an applause for that.
Thank you.
And well, congratulations. You did it.
Thank you.
You've led teams across complex, results driven organizations. In your experience, what is the most common mistake leaders make when they building a team versus when they are leading one? And why do so many brilliant builders fail the moment they need to become conductors instead of players?
Yeah, the difference between building and leading. When you build a team, you're trying to piece together the right parts to build the best team. So I've always approached looking at my team as a whole versus looking at the position they need to fill. So if I needed to fill a sales position or a leadership position, I'm looking at that position for the skill sets I need, but I'm also looking for a player on the team that's going to complete the team. So I'm looking at it like who's going to be the best fit to elevate, the people they lead, but who's going to also elevate my current leadership team as a whole. So it may not necessarily be the person on paper that's the best fit, right? You look at the person's resume and go, oh, okay, that's the best fit for the team because they've had this and that experience. But I don't look at it per se based on only that. I have to look at the whole picture and where all of the different characteristics are going to blend into a very tasty cake, right? So I look at it that way when I'm building, and then when I'm leading, it's different, right? I don't look at building the pieces of what I need. I'm looking at the pieces that I have and what each piece needs to grow. So it's then I look at more individually, and then I look at the common threads and go, okay, I need to build this skill set as a whole. I need to build these skill sets individually. I need to give this person individual coaching on this. I need to ask where this person wants to go. So each person, when you're leading, you're trying to find what really, sometimes motivation is a hard word to say, but really what really is going to separate them and where they're going to shine. Do you take the positives and build up the positives fully to its full extent, or do you maintain the positives and you take the one area that really needs to grow, that's going to really turn their life around and build that one area that really needs to grow? So when I lead, I'm looking at the individual parts and lifting those individual parts differently to build this thing. When I'm building now, it's funny because I look at the whole and I try to find the right fit, but when I look at leading, I look at the pieces to build together. So it's just a different approach when I'm looking at both parts.
Well done, Ms. Christine. There's a concept in high performing teams called disagree and commit. The
Mhm.
ability to fight like hell in the room and then march out unified. How do you actually build a culture where people feel safe enough to genuinely disagree, but disciplined enough to commit fully once a decision is made?
Well, you have to build an inclusive culture. So that's the first thing. Like with any team, you have to be able to allow people to feel safe speaking their mind, right? Where they won't feel like if you speak your mind that you're going to, close them off and say your idea was bad, or close them off and disagree with them right away, right? You have to allow them to be able to speak their mind and understand where they're coming from, right? And then from there, just go, okay, I can see where your point is. Let me give you my point, and then you guys can share. Um, I've been in cultures where it's not like that. And you just feel you say something and the person doesn't take it well. And you're like, well, shoot, I'm not going to say anything ever again. You feel completely, and there are people that will agree with me. They get in situations where, like, well, that person didn't take it that well and they yelled back at me, and I'm never ever going to say anything ever again. And I'll just agree. But they don't feel like their ideas have been heard, and they don't feel inclusive, and they don't feel like they have ownership in the future of the team or the company. So, in order to build that, you really have to be able to be open to the ideas, let people speak their mind, and then if you don't agree, you you look at it from like, okay, what's the best What's the best choice right now out of all of these ideas that are best for our business? What's the best choice right now today? Maybe you have an idea and that's a great idea, but it may not be the right idea today. So we look at where the business is today and then make the decisions that way. But everybody feels heard and everybody feels like, okay, I've been able to say my piece and people listen to me. And when you continuously do that, then you continuously always, when things come up, people are open to share what they want to share. So that's how I do it.
Well, thank you for that, Miss Christine. Thank you for sharing to us. 30 years is long enough to see patterns repeat, but also long enough to wonder about what it all added up to. How do you think about the relationship between results you deliver and the person you become? Are they same story or different ones?
That's a good question, Daniel. The results, I believe I've built really good results no matter where I've gone. I think the results show for themselves. But as far as the person I've become, I think I still am a results driven person over the last 30 years. I don't think that's changed. I think that the approach, I'm still like, I still want to be number one no matter what I do, right? I still want to be number one, but what I don't do anymore is I get upset, but I don't get upset for weeks and weeks. Like before, if I'm not number one, it was just this constant, like, oh my gosh, I would go get down on it. I don't get down on it like forever and ever anymore. I think what I do is I look at it, I go, okay, I'm upset. Why? Why? Okay, what can I do differently? So I think my approach to that drive is a little bit different than when I was younger. Because it was either, well, I'm not going to try anymore because I'm not going to be number one, or it was either, this, I would just be down on myself. So my approach is a little bit different. I think I'm more balanced in that sense. And I think now, as a person, I just have more life experience to kind of like compare. When you're younger, you don't have as much to compare to, and you spend most of your time asking your friends who also don't have experience, right? Like, do you
Yes.
remember yourself when you're in your early 20s and you ask every friend about every single piece of advice on everything, yet you don't realize that your friends don't have that experience either, but they're also giving their opinions, right?
Right.
Now I just have a lot to I have a lot of experience to go back to and to check, like, well, this is not possible, this is possible, this is possible, and then just it's become easier. So advice for any young folks who are really trying to grow, get advice from people who already have the experience versus people who don't. So that's my advice there.
Definitely, yes. So, Miss Christine, the word legacy is often used as a kind of currency, something to accumulate. But after 30 years, you probably have more complicated relationship with the idea. What do you actually want to leave behind? And what do you know now you won't be able to control about how you remembered?
Yeah, yeah, when you're younger, you think, "Oh, my legacy is gonna be this," you think it's some big thing. But really, my legacy today is just how I impact people, with whomever I work with daily. So if I can impact them and they can gain some value and grow as a person, and that can impact them and their families in the future, then I've done my part.
Yes, you did it. You did it, Miss Christina. Building a legacy is something else, people. Life is too short, and you need to build your legacy for generations to come. And stop procrastinating. Do it now.
Yes.
Do it now. So, Miss Christine, would you please invite our listeners to support your advocacy, your business, or wherever you want to promote?
Yeah. Yes. Just visit me on my website, ChristineValdez.com, or follow me on LinkedIn, Christine Valdez on LinkedIn.
Mhm. Yes, people, just follow. Please follow Miss Christine, my new host on Leadership 101. I have one more question, Miss Christine. Finally, for the entrepreneur who has 10 years in, past the survival stage, starting to feel the weight of complexity, wondering if they have another 20 years in them. What is the one question you wish someone would ask them, and what's the honest answer you hope they find?
Well, what really drives you? Why are you doing this job? And it's two questions. Why are you doing this job? And why did you get into this job to begin with? And you'll get your answer there.
Very well said, Miss Christine. Very well said indeed. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Modka people, see you soon.